I'm gonna look a whole dark.
It'll come back. Or a minute, it gets better. See. Hello.
Whoa,
Maybe.
maybe. Are we there? We had some technical difficulties. Sorry about being late, but Cassie doesn't understand the internet. So,
Sorry.
problems.
Problems with the internet.
Now what are you doing?
Nothing. What do you mean?
I thought you were going away.
No, just getting situated. I'm like, oh, nothing's situated now that we had technical difficulties.
Let's get a little closer. Anyway, well, don't do that.
Oh, okay.
All right, we'll kick it off. Do the kickoff.
What do you want me to kick it off as?
I'm just saying hello.
Hello. All right. We're Cassie and Finest with Massey's Comics.
We're a little comic shop in Lebanon, Missouri, the state of Missouri, the Show Me State. That's where we are.
That's where we're at right now.
And this is our second, whatever, I don't know what you want to call this, live show, talk show, comic show.
Podcast, YouTube, stream.
Podcasts are just in your ears, I think.
Yeah, but some people are like do this and a podcast. Like they do it like together.
Okay, well, we don't. We just do the one.
Well, we got to see if people even like this before we get too crazy.
All right. Well, like last time, we want to kick it off with some what came into the store this week, right?
What came in the door at the store?
The door, we got one door.
One door, not the door.
Things come into it. The first thing I want to talk about, we had several graphic novel, like 4 giant tubs of graphic novels come in. And I love graphic novels. But most of the time, whenever you get trade paperbacks, graphic novels, whatever, they're not worth as much as they say on the covers. So they're cool. Like that omnibus that was $100 is now priced in our store for $60 or whatever. That's just an example. Sometimes
they're used stuff. Like, I mean, not
yeah,
like we're not
used,
buying them.
Whatever. So whenever you're pricing those, we usually just look at the cover price and price it down. But that's not always a good idea. So I want to show you an example of like sometimes there's like out of print things or just weird popular books that for whatever reason garner a little more money. So this is Bernie Wrightson and Jim Starlin's Batman the Cult. It's a trade paperback from like 91. I think this is the second or third print. But anyhow, it's got a cover price of $15. It's an older graphic novel. 90s is older now. So, and it's also a good story. So if you've never read it, definitely check it out. But anyway, it says $15. So normally in the store, we would have put like $5 or $10 on it and thrown it on the shelf. But when you look this book up, it's been out of print for a really long time. And it regularly sells for like $40, $30, $40. So I thought that was, keep an eye out for, oddball graphic novels. I mean, there's obvious ones like Creepshow's first print is worth some decent money, but we're talking about trade paperbacks that are just out of print. We found a couple omnibuses that were like Avengers and Spider-Man, and they were all worth at least cover or more.
Yeah.
But a lot of the omnibuses, all that we had like a bunch of Fantastic Four and some other Avengers and stuff, and none of them are worth what they were when they originally came out. Anyway, so that's something to keep an eye on. Also bought this actually just happened today, bought a comic collection today, and I got some weird books that I wanted to show off. Some 60s, some Silver Age fun here. First of all, we got Doll Man. I don't know if you've heard of Doll Man, but he is now in DC Comics, but this is a super comic. Didn't last very long. So these are reprints of the 80s stories that had Doll Man, or not 80s, 40s. In the 60s, they reprinted him. Doll Man was actually the very first superhero to have, like size changing abilities. So he outdated, the Atom and Ant-Man / Giant Man by like 20 years. So I thought that was cool. Here's another good one. This one is from, I want to say Quality Comics, but I'm not sure. It doesn't say on the front. And I'm not going to pull it out. But it's Flyman. Oh, man. We're getting a good glare. So I'll go to the side, and then we'll go like this. Kind of. Anyway, that's Flyman right there. And he was actually created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, who you may know are the creators of Captain America. But he's basically Spider-Man. He has super strength, and he can crawl on any wall or ceiling or whatever, and he has wings. So instead of webs, he has wings. And they actually created him way before Spider-Man. One more. This is a Harvey Giant size. So it's a reprint of the first issue of, well, we got to figure out a different way. Fighting American. And that's the Fighting American right there. And you may recognize that he looks very, very similar to Captain America with his patriotic theme. But anyway, this is a 60s reprint of the 50s Fighting American. And Joe Simon and Jack Kirby came up with, there's their names right there. They came up with the Fighting American because Marvel had started printing new issues of Captain America in the 50s. And they said they did not like how they were treating their character from the 40s. So they created their own version. So that one's cool. This one is extra neat. Could not find it anywhere. It took me a long time to figure this out. Was not on eBay. Not a single issue is listed on eBay. It's the Purple Hood. Lee Britton, alias the Purple Hood. It's from John Spencer and Co. Publishing from London. It was a British comic that only lasted 2 issues, so that would be the reason it's rare. But it's from the 60s, I think 1967. But anyway, very cool book that I've never seen it, never heard of it. The 2 biggest ones I saved the best for last. Daredevil 131, which is the first appearance of Bullseye. But there's also something else very special about this book. And if anyone was in the chat, and they're not, I would ask them why, if there's any clues as to why it was special. And I'm not talking about newsstand. This came from a year where newsstand really doesn't matter. But if you see that little star drawn in the Comics Code stamp, that indicates something neat about this book. It is a Mark Jeweler insert. So Mark Jeweler, it says right there, Mark Jewelers, was a jewelry company that put these ads in comics. And 2 ways that you can tell is one, sometimes there'll be a star right there or a star over the price. And it's just like a little black star. Another way you can tell, I don't know if you'll be able to see on here, but you can see the cardboard when you're looking down at it.
It's like a different color.
Yeah, so if you're just like flipping through a stack of books, it's easier to tell on this side, I think, that you'll just see that little piece of cardboard. So anyway, so it's kind of a double whammy. There's not a ton of collectors of Mark Jewelers, but it is a growing thing. We had a customer actually come in the store the other day that had a Mark Jeweler T-shirt that I think he had custom made himself. But at any rate, it is something that people look for, and you started seeing it noticed like on Key Collector and some other things. But there's a lot of books in the 70s, 80s that have those in them. And we are kind of in a special spot because we live really close to a military base in Missouri. So they're, the closer you are to a military base, the more likely you'll find these in the wild. I found several. We've been open for 4 years, going on 5, and I've probably only found maybe 10 at max. So they're pretty rare. And then the last, not as cool as the other one, but Daredevil 132, that is the second appearance of Bullseye, that fella. So those all came into the shop today. Now what?
Now what?
Oh, do you want to talk about the video games, or you want to do that
No,
later?
yeah, well,
Okay.
That's later.
Okay, she's got a schedule.
I have a schedule. I will just we'll ramble on anyways, but it would be worse. So, you were gonna bring up the Ant-Man trailer came out this week.
Oh, I was gonna bring that up.
So that's our kid. Well, Finest and our kids, that's one of their favorite things to do is to watch the new trailers that come out.
Yeah, I'm a little addicted to trailers, and it's also gotten kind of goofy because it just seems like there's like a teaser for a teaser and a teaser trailer, and then you get like the real trailer, and then you'll get a second trailer close to when the movie comes out. I'm not even sure when it comes out, but it comes out soon. But anyway,
I'll look it up.
It's a cool trailer, and it reveals a lot more about the story. You're just kind of thrown into finding out in the first trailer for Ant-Man and Wasp in Quantumania that they're going to the quantum realm and facing Kang or whatever. And this new trailer has a much more somber tone. It's kind of
oh no, that's all right.
a much more somber tone. Like it seems like it's going to have some serious, like it's going to be a little more serious than your typical Ant-Man movie.
February 17th, so in like a month.
So very, very soon.
So we'll talk about that whenever we go see it, because I assume we'll see
And
it.
you get to see MODOK, which was awesome. You get a little glimpse of MODOK, and I never really thought that MODOK would be in a movie.
Yeah, so check that out. Other movie, and I want to know about just for myself because it seems real creepy to me, is Finance keeps talking about this new Megan movie that came out, and it's supposed to be like a scary comedy type.
I keep talking about it.
You've talked about it a lot. Anyways, he keeps talking about it. And I want to know if anybody's seen it. So if you've seen it, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Because it has, what did we look? We looked it up earlier.
It was like a 90-something% approval on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which is really high for
which
a
is
movie
insane,
like that.
especially for a horror movie.
So anyway, so if you've seen it, let us know because I want to know if it's worth watching or not. But it looks really weird and creepy to me. So anyways. What?
No,
Oh, they're gonna say something.
I was waiting for you to go.
Oh no. So the other thing we're gonna talk about is Legos. We love Legos. Our kids are obsessed with Legos and have been since whatever they were little bitty. We got all of us wound up with Legos for Christmas. Our kids got, what did they get? They got a Star Wars one.
Yeah, they got the shuttle with the Return of the Jedi shuttle with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and they got a Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Progress Spider-Man set.
Yeah.
And then our oldest got a creator, like those 3-in-1 creator ones, but it's a ramen noodle shop, which I hope he'll put that together soon.
Yeah, I don't
because
think
it's,
he's
if he doesn't, maybe I'll put it together because it's really, really neat. And then
what'd you get for your birthday?
No, it's not for my birthday. It's for Christmas.
Oh, for Christmas, yeah.
Yeah. Finance bought me the Friends apartment set. I already have Central Perk. I'm a huge Friends nerd. So anyway, so I'm pretty excited. I'm in the middle of building it right now. It's like, if you've seen it, it's 2 apartments and then the hallway. So I have 1 apartment done. So I don't know. Maybe I'll post a picture of it or something when it's done.
I got a Mandalorian helmet and haven't touched it.
No, you should though. You should put that together.
Maybe
Legos are very like, I don't know. It's like brain break for me. But the other thing, our middle son, he's the one who's really like, if you see his room, he has Legos set up everywhere. But he brought something. I mean, I guess I didn't realize that that's how a lot of these were made, but it's from the Lego Ideas, which I guess people can just submit ideas that they have for Legos, and then they like make them, like make a prototype or whatever. And then there's like, he was telling me today, there's like 4 sessions a year that they like pick so many and then they narrow it down, and I don't know. But anyways, so they just released this week, I guess, or sometime, I don't know when that was. What did he say? I tried to get him to be on here. He doesn't want to be on here with us. But some of the cool ones, they're doing a community one, which Hayden is very excited about because we're rewatching Community with him right now.
It's a fantastic show.
It is a good show. But anyway, so that's one. Pac-Man, there's a zoo, Willow, Jaws, an arcade.
Like Willow Smith?
No, like Willow, like the movie.
With my hair back and forth?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Jaws, an arcade. I think I already said those. Jack Skellington House, Wallace and Gromit, the Up House. We're real excited about that. But anyway, so if you guys have any cool Legos you've done, let us know. We're always looking for new ones to get. If you haven't been to a Lego store, we did that over the summer.
Was that right outside St. Louis?
Yeah, so there's only one in our area, which is, right outside St. Louis, and it is really, really neat. Our kids all made, you can do like a 3-pack thing of the minifigs, and you design them all yourself. Like you pick all the pieces.
You just have big bins full of pieces.
So that was fun. And then they have like crazy, like, it's crazy how much it's evolved or whatever since we were kids. Like you just got like a house or something when we were kids.
Spaceman.
Spaceman. Now you get all kinds of cool stuff. But anyways, so that's fun. That's something that we like to do.
Yeah.
All right, talk about your video games. I know you're waiting.
What? I didn't.
Talk about your video games.
You're acting weird. So we also sell video games. We'd actually like to sell more. It's just they just trickle in. You know, I mean, it's at the women fancy or whatever of people. So
because we do like retro, like whatever.
Yeah,
retro
yeah,
vintage.
Like old ones or whatever. Retro old ones.
Patrol.
So anyway, we buy from customers. Literally. That's how we get a lot of our inventory is buying from the public. And we had someone call and say that they had a Game Boy Advance game for sale. It was Pokemon Fire Red. And if you don't know, some of the older Pokemon games are expensive. Like that game sells for $80 to $100. So whenever someone says, "I've got this one thing, I've only got one," it always raises a red flag. No offense to the person who sold it or anything like that. It just always like, is this fake? Because I don't know if you knew this or not, but there are a ton of fake video games out there. Like all the cartridge ones, like Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance. They've all been fake before. And I kind of got a heads up from this like a month or two ago. One of my friends was going through his his DS games, like 2DS games, and he was like, "This one's fake," and like was showing us pictures about, like you could tell from like the label wasn't quite right. It looks like somebody didn't professionally print it. Like it's looks pretty good at a glance, but like if you get to looking close, it's kind of blurry. So anyway, I immediately, when this person said they were coming in, started looking up on YouTube and on Google how to tell if something is fake or not on Game Boy Advance. On Pokemon Fire Red, there's a specific way, but we sold the game on eBay before this aired. So
our plan was to bring it so we could show it, and then of course, of all times, we sold it.
Anyway, like I said before, one way to tell is that the label just doesn't look quite right, and you definitely need to check in like two of the areas where they get it wrong the most. I brought just some random Game Boy Advance games, and none of them are good games to show you guys. But like down here, I don't know if you will see it. You probably won't because it's kind of a blue color. But right there, the Nintendo seal and the rating are a lot harder to get for these guys. Also, sometimes where it says Game Boy Advance, right there in gray, it'll just say like Game Boy or Game or something like that. But the surefire way, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. I don't think you will.
Probably not.
Is there is an indented number or letter randomly on every Game Boy Advance cartridge.
Can you see it?
I think you can kind of. Right there. So there's that one.
And they're in different places on each game. Like they won't be in the same spot every time.
Let's grab another one just for an example.
I'm sorry.
I mean, they're usually on the right side. That one's up by right there. You can see it. It's right by the logo. But anyway, it's indented, so it doesn't help you if you find one where the label is worn or whatever. But it's usually two sets of 2-digit numbers. Oh man, I know I'm wasting my time doing this because you can't see it. Oh, there you can, right there, 13. Anyway, that's one surefire way to tell. Like I'm sure there's a way to fake it, but it's normally not on fakes. So.
And then you can tell them about the Pokemon game. The other way that you can.
On the Pokemon Red, so it's a red cartridge, but it's kind of translucent. You can see if you flip it over, you can see the insides. And on the top left corner of the back, there are 4 little gold squares. I think it's some kind of special chip or something, but you can see it through the cartridge, and the fake ones don't have it. Also, I mean, if you're really hardcore, you can take these apart. You take the one screw out, and inside there is writing. So if the writing, like it'll say Nintendo and then some numbers, and sometimes Nintendo is misspelled. A lot of times the Nintendo logo has a circle around it. If it doesn't, that's a sign. There's different ways, but the indents on the label are probably the best way to tell.
Yeah. Interesting. And that's something that's neat about our job is we learn something new all the time, stuff that we didn't know or whatever before. So that's awesome.
So now let's talk about some new books that came out this week.
Yes.
I read way more than Cassie, so I will talk about mine first.
So it always goes.
I'll talk about.
Did you read that book?
No. I'll talk about 2, and then you talk about yours, and I'll talk about the last one.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Okay. So first of all, I try to pick out number ones because it's just easier to do that than jump into something. Well, this wasn't all that easy to jump into, but because I have not read a Spawn book in years, but this is Spawn Unwanted Violence. And I mean, there's classic characters in here. The main characters are Spawn. Yeah, this is something to show you guys. Books don't always come in near mint. I mean, look at that. That's how it came from the distributor with a big crease down the back.
And we just opened those boxes up yesterday. So.
And that's just the way it is. So anyway, Spawn Unwanted Violence. If you don't know, recently in Spawn, Todd McFarlane has kind of branched off, and there are several Spawn books right now. There's Spawn, King Spawn, Scorched, which is like a team of Spawns.
Yeah, Gunslinger.
Gunslinger Spawn, which is the old-timey Gunslinger Spawn version. So anyway, this one, so he hasn't been writing them in a long time, but he wrote this one. And it's art by Mike Del Mundo, or Mundo. I think Mundo, maybe. That's probably right. Like I said before, I'm not very good at names. But anyway, so the main characters are basically Spawn and the Freak, who's like this weird serial killer monster guy in Spawn. Not like it's a little bit to jump into, and I'm going to be honest, it's a little preachy, but I really enjoy Del Mundo's art. I'll show you a good example. He does a very good job of like playing with panels and making things visually interesting instead of just traditional squares. So like this page, you have Spawn sitting here with his cape, and you see all these people in his cape, like all this torment going on in the city. I'd say that this is Todd McFarlane's way of trying to deal with some current events. This whole thing is spawned by protests, like he talks about protests and like that happened last year, and some violence and some death and stuff that occurred because of that. And I'd have to say that's interesting enough that I want to read number 2, but it's not my favorite.
And it's just a 2-part book, right?
I know there's at least a number 2 because it teases a number 2 on the back, but I didn't look to see how many parts it is. But it is a miniseries. The next thing I read, I've been wanting to jump on one of these big company events in a while. I just usually don't have time to jump into that many books. So I decided to grab DC Universe Lazarus Planet Alpha, which is the kickoff to the new, company spanning business. This was, if I said that one was difficult to jump into, this one was a little more because there's a lot of buildup in Batman vs. Robin and World's Finest. But the writer's Mark Waid, who also did those other 2 books. And he does a pretty good job of keying you in on what's going to happen or what has happened before. And this one, I actually have to say that I was more excited to see more at the end of this. It sets up a pretty good idea. It's basically all magic users and stuff have gone wild, and the end has a pretty good cliffhanger. But so I recommend that one.
And there's going to be like different books that go with that.
Yeah, it goes like there's a bunch of miniseries because that's what DC likes to do.
Yeah.
And then it goes into.
But they're all like Lazarus something, right?
Yeah. So the next one, this one's Lazarus Planet Alpha, and then it's in Monkey Prince. So that was a character that I was unfamiliar with. I mean, I know who he is, but so he's a pretty major character in this. And then there's all kinds of.
So like these tie into Monkey Prince, and then these over here tie into Wonder Woman.
So anyway, it seems like it's going to be an interesting thing.
Okay.
Now here's your book.
So the book I chose was Black Cloak. It is an image book by Kelly Thompson and Meredith McLaren. And it is like a sci-fi fantasy type book. I really like the art in this. It's very different. It's kind of muted tones, but I did really like it. It was very, and does well, like, as you can tell, like it changes to go with the story. So that's kind of cool. But anyways, it is pretty much a classic murder mystery type story. It's about these black cloaks who are detectives, and they are trying to solve what? Oh. They're trying to solve a murder. And so it's kind of basically the first one is just really setting up the murder. The murder that they're trying to solve is they have a royal family, and it's a prince in the royal family. So that's who got murdered. And so it sets all that up. But I really like this book because it's a bigger book. And I it gives you more story. So I
Like you felt like you got more.
yeah, I feel like I got. I mean, it really is like a double issue basically of a normal comic book. But anyways, I feel like I got more story. But what that was kind of nice for the setup because sometimes I feel like the setup of issue one's kind of leave you hanging with not much stuff. Anyways, I recommend it. I'm excited to read the next one, so we'll see.
This was my favorite book of the 3 I read, and I have to admit I've always liked Marvel a little better, but I like this because it was, first of all, I was more familiar with it, but it messes with it deals with something that I've always been interested in all genres of stuff is time travel and messing with that. So this is basically it's a book by Paul Levitz, who used to be with DC, and Alan Davis, who you might remember from he had a huge Excalibur run. It is set after the events of Avengers number 11. So this is like Avengers in the 60s. So if you don't remember or you don't have some sort of encyclopedic knowledge, in Avengers number 11, they meet Spider-Man and they fight him. And it come to find out it's just like a robot from Kang the Conqueror, which is something else that Marvel does. Whenever a movie's coming out, they really push somebody that's going to be in it. So King the Conqueror is the villain in this. But so this is setting up like King trying to attack the Avengers through different time periods. And it felt like a real old school comic. There's some comedy in here, a lot of action. I really enjoyed it. I recommend that one pretty highly.
Is there more of those coming out?
Yeah, it's going to be a whole mini-series.
Mini-series, there you go. All right, anything else you want to talk about? Got any news?
That's all I got.
Inside scoop of anything?
That's all I got.
All right, guys. One last thing I was gonna say is if you guys have any recommendations on stuff or like that you want us to talk about or books to read or movies to watch or whatever, like we love recommendations, that kind of stuff. So drop them in the comments so that we can look into that because I'm sure we'll run out of things to talk about eventually, probably like next week. So.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
End.